I literally said, if we want to take the league seriously, we will win this game easily. We don't want to take the league seriously, obviously, because we didn't win this game easily. Welcome back to the Arsenal Humans podcast with me, Luce. I hope you're all doing good, because if you're a gooner like me, it's not been the best week. I mean, we obviously didn't have the women's side playing because they're on their international break, but they'll be playing next week, luckily. And with the men, we had a game that has pretty much decided what the rest of our season will look like. But I mean, that's just my opinion. I obviously put it out in my warm-up poll. And you know what? I'm not going to even talk about the warm-up poll just yet. Let's get into that now. Okay. Where do we start? The warm-up poll is probably a good place to start, considering that's this section. So we're going to say the warm-up poll, which the question is there still hope for Arsenal in the Premier League? Poll results show 15% of you said yes, there is still hope, but 85% of you said no, there isn't. And before I say whether I agree or disagree with whatever side, all I'm going to say is 32 individuals said that there is still hope that Arsenal will win the Premier League. I want to know why. Basically, I'm saying my opinion already. I want to know why, because for me, 85% of you, I'm going to have to agree with the majority once again, because the Premier League, it just seems like it's written off now. I mean, I feel like I'm quite a realistic fan. I'm not too pessimistic, not too optimistic. I'm sort of quite realistic. Like, we're not going to be the worst team in the world for all these games, but we're also not going to win a trophy every single week. Like, you know, you've got to be a little bit realistic. I feel like some Arsenal fans aren't. But yeah, this is kind of crazy as well. That 32 of you said yes, because I know on my Instagram, which is where you can have your say on the poll, on my Instagram story, it is like I mostly have Arsenal fans, but there are a few that aren't. So the fact that still over 30 of you said that yes, I'm shocked at that. But anyways, I just feel like the Premier League is sort of written off for us right now. This is basically because if you look at the league table, Liverpool, they've played one more game than us. But even with that, Liverpool are first 11 points ahead of us. And I think even if we can win this game that's midweek against Forest, which is kind of looking a bit unlikely because it's Forest, it is a tough game. So the likelihood is we might actually drop points against Forest. I'm not really sure. I'll get into that in the predictions section of this podcast later on. But I just think, the fact that we're that many points behind, even if we do beat Forest, we're still 8 points behind. And this was our chance to really narrow that gap, because they lost. They didn't even lose. They drew the last couple of games. And we couldn't even draw. We just had to lose all 3 points. So I'm truly gutted. I am gutted. I feel like this week, it's been a bit of a weird one, because obviously we've just had one game to focus on. And it's not been the best. But before I waffle on about the actual game, let's get to the Let's Chat section, where we talk about Arsenal losing against West Ham. Arsenal 0, West Ham 1. That is not how we wanted this week to go whatsoever. I actually did predict that we'd win 3-1. So what on earth went wrong? What on earth went wrong? We're gonna pack into that now, as well as also later in this section take a look at Arteta as the manager and whether he should be in or out, because that's been a debate that's been questioned the whole season, last couple seasons to be fair. And I feel like it's got to a point now where this game is like a real turning point for a lot of Arsenal fans. So we'll get to that in a bit. But focusing just purely on the game, we didn't play too bad. I just feel like we didn't. Our issue is up top, and yes, I don't understand why we haven't got a striker in, a backup striker. The fact that we were relying on just one or two individuals, even when they weren't out-and-out strikers. We relied so much on Kai Havertz, and he's not even an out-and-out striker, well, the striker that we want him to be. So I think, for me, it's just confusing. We put so much pressure on Havertz, and now he's not even there. Who do we go to? Mourinho. There's a few issues in this game. Firstly, Mourinho didn't have the service. Like, he wasn't given the service to be able to produce the goals. So everyone's saying, oh, he didn't score any goals, but he wasn't given that service. We were trying crossings, but we were trying to cross the ball in, but it wasn't working, because if you look at West Ham, that's one thing. Their season's been pretty up and down, which is why I almost feel a bit more gutted that we lost against them, because they were almost close to, they're only, 10 points away from the relegation zone? Obviously not now, but going into this game they were. And I just think the fact that we lost to them, it's just, what? I don't even understand. I just think we needed that out and out striker. We needed the players around them to be able to provide that service. Ødegaard hasn't been his best this season. I mean, people are getting a little bit delusional. Like, I'll take the captaincy away from him. Less relaxed, because he is pretty much one of the best players on the pitch. But I feel like there were a few players like Rice. He didn't have his best performance, and I know he sort of has an emotional connection, I'd say, to West Ham, because obviously that was his former club, and when he's gone there, he's either done amazing or he's literally been shadowed and hidden. And I feel like this is one of the games where he did come off early. Arteta did take him off. Said it was for like tactical reasons. I'm not 100% sure, but we did also, like, focusing on the goal. Bowen scored it. Bowen's the one that basically stopped Arsenal from winning the league, which is kind of a big statement, but it's what happened in the 44th minute. Wan-Bissaka needs some credit, man, because he was down that wing. He's a class player. He was crossing it like there was no tomorrow. And luckily for West Ham, Bowen got a diving header and managed to find the back of the net. Obviously not great for our Schooners, because that pretty much means we're not going to win the league. I know this is really negative, and I don't want to be too negative, because we're still doing all right performances. Maybe this one wasn't the best performance, but we're not like a team that you can rule out. We're still competing for the title race. We're still competing for the title. We're still in that race, because we're in the top 4, and I don't see us getting out of the top 4, but I just don't see us going all the way and getting that trophy. The same as last season, the same as the season before, which I think is where the frustration comes in more, that it's been repeated. Obviously, there was a stupid mistake. I think that's what you can call it, a stupid mistake from Miles Lewis-Skelly. He did get a red card. It was a yellow originally, which, if you hear the commentators, they were like, oh, that's quite nice that he got just a yellow, and then it did get overturned to be red. And it was just stupid. Like, I don't know why he had to drag and, like, put his legs out. Like, a red card was the correct decision in this situation. Obviously, it hasn't been previously. But I think there's so much frustration, because we can't even deny that. One fact, stat, statement, whatever you want to call it, is that Graham Potter ended Arsenal's unbeaten run at home this season. And we were the only team to not have lost at home until West Ham. And I think this is just what proves that you've got to see every game as a big game, because West Ham on paper, if you look at the league table, they wouldn't have been seen as a big game. I mean, I was like, yeah, we're going to win 3-1, and like, if we want to take the league seriously, if you go back to last episode 16 of the Arsenal Humans podcast, I literally said, if we want to take the league seriously, we will win this game easily. We don't want to take the league seriously, obviously, because we didn't win this game easily. So I think it is just very frustrating. That is a word I'm going to use a lot. I do feel bad for Marino, because it's not his natural position. And he did look quite out of place, like the way he was receiving the ball. He did try to, a few times, when you get the ball, then header it back down to the midfield to then play up, but that was only a few times, and it was quite rare. Like I said, that at the beginning there wasn't really much service into him, so it's hard for him to prove that he could play that position. I also do think, if we look back to Leicester had quite a leaky defence. You know, they had gaps where Marino could run through. Also, they weren't expecting Marino to be up top. None of us were, to be honest. It was sort of like a makeshift striker in that game, whereas West Ham had time to prepare, like, well, it's going to be Marino, there's no other option, so their defence were on it, so basically shut him out of the game. So that's basically all I want to say about the game as a whole. Focusing on what this means for Arteta now, there's been a lot of people saying Arteta should go out, and I think, hold up, I know we haven't won a lot of trophies. We've basically won no trophies in 4 years, and that is obviously, I don't want to say again, frustrating. That is obviously annoying that we haven't won that, and I do understand that this game could have helped us potentially win a title, and that's something that wants to happen. But I just think, who's better than Arteta right now? Who would you, if you want Arteta out, all the people that are saying you want Arteta out, who would you put in place? Because for me, there's no one better to manage Arsenal right now than Arteta. I think the team he's created, if you look back decades ago, or not decades, it's a bit dramatic, if you look back a good 6-7 years ago, you wouldn't even think that Arsenal would be in the questions, in the conversations of the title race. The fact that we've been in the conversations of the title race for the last few years now, that's so impressive. Yes, it's annoying we haven't got it over the line, but I think we're in those conversations, and we're making that a sustainable foundation, so that hopefully in the next few seasons we can actually get it across the line. Not even in just that, I'm hoping in other competitions as well. So I do understand that the frustrations that it's you look to the manager, but I think if we look at this January transfer window, it's not all just on Arteta. Edu obviously left, when was that, a good few months ago, and we didn't get a striker in, and maybe there's a link because we didn't have Edu, or for whatever reason we haven't got a striker in, and that's not completely down to the manager. There's a whole team behind them, so I think it's unfair to put it all on Arteta. Also, if you look at Arteta, he is one of the younger managers. He is one of the best managers in the world right now, in my opinion anyways. So like any club out there, if we let him go, they'd snatch him up straight away. Arteta will get snatched up straight away by any club, honestly. So I think we've just got to be grateful that we've got a manager like this. And yes, I know we're not winning everything, and it is annoying about getting over the final line, if that makes sense. But I think our main issue is just our squad depth. You see the best teams in the world, they have basically a starting 11 on their bench. We don't have that, and that is something we need to work on. So yes, Arteta made a mistake in January not signing a striker or any more attacking players, but also that can't just be put completely down to him. And we weren't to know that Havertz suddenly would be injured while Saka's injured. Like, we weren't. It's all happened. I know these are all excuses because a lot of teams have gone for an injury crisis, but for me, very much Arteta in. And if we're in this position this time next season, and there's not been too many changes, then maybe we'll keep having this conversation, I guess. But for the moment, I don't think it's as dramatic as, I'm going to compare it to the women's team back in October where we got rid of Jonas Eidevall. That was basically our only option and all we could do. So we'll see. But let's get on to this week and the games coming up. So the women are back in action this week, but first we do have a Premier League fixture as well, which happens in 2 days' time on Wednesday at 7:30pm, and it is away to Forest, which isn't looking like the easiest game. It's actually kind of annoying timing-wise because it's actually the same time as the England game, the Lionesses are playing at Wembley, so I'll be there watching them, and I guess I'll just have to get the notifications on my phone for this game. But anyways, I'm going to predict it to be a 2-2 draw. I think, yes, Forest are coming back on a loss, so are Arsenal. I think it's quite level playing fields. Also, Forest, I don't think anyone actually saw Forest doing what they've done this season. They have been incredible, and it is a little bit scary going to them, especially because there's more pressure on us now to actually just secure the top 2 spots. I'd love us to come second. I think Arsenal can still come second. We have such a big gap between us and City, which I feel like people are sort of ignoring that we are doing well. We are doing well against these big sides as well. But I'm hoping that we at least get a draw. Obviously, I'd love a win, but I don't want to get too complacent. I have no idea what's going to happen. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But that is my prediction, 2-2. The women will be playing West Ham at the weekend. So we do have 2 fixtures this week, which is more exciting. We are playing them at home on Sunday at 5:30. And you know what? I know I predicted Arsenal to win against West Ham. This is the men, 3-1 last week. But I'm going to predict Arsenal women to win against West Ham women 2-0. I'm going to predict 2-0. I feel like that's kind of like a comfier vibe. West Ham, I feel like West Ham have had quite a weird season because they haven't been performing the best, but they've also not been too close to the relegation zone, because in the WSL the relegation zone is literally the bottom position, which I feel like I've said it a lot before and I'll continue saying it until it changes. It shouldn't just be one spot, it should be more. But I just feel like we should win this, and if we actually want to be competing, I don't think we're going to be able to beat Chelsea. Like I've said before, they are pretty unbeatable right now. No one's unbeatable. They literally drew to Everton and then in the last minute got a winner. So they're not too far ahead, but somehow they always find a way to win. So I'm not really going to think we're going to beat them. But I think at least for Arsenal, we need to come in the top 2, as well as then be able to compete in other cup competitions. So for this, we have to win this game if we're going to stand a chance of winning any silverware this season. So we have to win this game. Fingers crossed we will win this game. And yeah, I guess that's the 2 games. So I'm predicting a 2-2 draw for the men's, I think it's really knocked my confidence with the West Ham game, so I don't want to get too complacent with the score predictions. But with the women, I am predicting a win, so I guess we'll have to see what happens. But yeah, I'm excited. There's 2 games, and the women's team are back, so I am honestly frightened. Okay, so that is the end of another episode, and it's kind of crazy because this is episode 17. I've been doing this for just over 3 months now. I think I've worked out, like 3.5 months, and I'm loving it. So I'd love to hear your feedback. If you are enjoying this, please subscribe, give me a like, comment as well your predictions, comment anything related to the Arsenal Humans pod, because over here we just chat about everything Arsenal from Rice to Russo. So yeah, I'm loving it. And if you're listening on Spotify, please follow, give me a 5-star rating or whatever star rating you'd like to, but be nice, please be nice. But yeah, anyways, thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next week. I'm not 100% sure what day, because it just depends on the competitions and everything, but it should be next Monday as well. I quite like doing it on Monday because you've just come fresh out of the weekend and can look ahead to next week, which hopefully should be a good week for us. A lot better than last week. I mean, it's not exactly hard to beat, but yeah, I'll see you then. Thank you.